Alekos, welcome to Early Days.
Thank you for having me.
I spend my whole life chasing you. When will you come home to me?
I think it's been about a year since the last time I saw you in Austin. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, really, thank you so much for the invite. I'm sorry I couldn't. I would like to come more often to Austin. It's a bit far away for me, so yeah, sorry I couldn't make it sooner again.
So how's everything going at the Hackerspace? Are you all still pushing out code over there in Italy?
Yeah, yeah, it's still going strong, I would say. So it goes a bit up and down because I'm obviously super busy with the company. So there are times when I have more free time and I try to dedicate that to the hackerspace. So sometimes we organize events, stuff like that. Sometimes we're less active when we're particularly busy with the company. We tend to be less active on the kind of hackerspace side. But I think it's still going pretty well. So we're building a bit of a community. Um, there's quite a few people that come regularly, come to visit regularly, or maybe pass by just to say hi. Um, so yeah, it's going well. It could be bigger if we had more time to dedicate, I guess. Um, but yeah,
Any cool initiatives have you guys started this year? Any cool learnings you'd like to share?
yeah. So on the hackerspace side, I think the biggest kind of event we did was an hackathon. This was connected with the company, so this is why we managed to allocate quite a bit of time to that because we had a return, let's say, in the company as well. So we organized this hackathon basically to find people to work at our company. So we managed to raise a little bit of funding, and so with that funding, we wanted to hire people, and we didn't know how to find good people with the right mindset, especially in Italy, because I think some of the stereotypes are true. So people tend to be uh, I wouldn't say necessarily lazy, but less entrepreneurial. People tend to prefer like stable jobs, things like that. So they tend to be scared by startups and these kind of more risky companies. So yeah, we needed to find the right people for us, and so we thought, well, an hackathon would be a great way because people who are competitive and people who like to challenge themselves, they are probably a good fit for our company. So we organized this hackathon, which was organized by the Hackerspace but let's say like sponsored by the company. And the ultimate goal was to find somebody for the company. And we did find somebody actually. So
Oh
so we
wow.
are really happy with that. So this was probably the biggest thing we've done. It was in March. And then yeah, we've been doing like dinner parties kind of thing. So just like open doors, people can come say hi. Maybe we have dinner together. So we tend to do that at least once a month. So there's also yeah, there's quite a few things going on in parallel.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great to hear. I
Yeah.
always feel like especially with the hackerspace stuff, you gotta try everything and see what sticks, you know?
Yeah.
There is no like um there's no I don't want to say there's no plan, but there's definitely no way to,
Formula
yeah,
to
there's no formula. Yeah.
yeah.
You kind of just have to see what works. That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear. Cool. Yeah, let's jump into 22 devices and your background. So I know you're a part of BDK, like, and you've been doing Bitcoin since 2017, and I know you've worked with Giacomo in the past and all that stuff. How did you get started into Bitcoin? I don't know if I've ever heard your story, but like, yeah, how did you get started into Bitcoin and yeah, and working on open source stuff?
Yeah, so it was quite random, I would say. So it was not really planned. So the way it happened was I got a little bit into Bitcoin when I was in high school. So last year of high school, especially, I was into it, but I wouldn't say I was not an expert. I was not really learning it. It was like very very high level. I wasn't really going deep. I think I bought a little bit a few €100 maybe back then. So it was, yeah, just kind of interested, but not really doing much on it. But yeah, we do this thing in Italy, especially the kind of more technical schools, like the one I went to. We do like a final year project, so we have to present and build a project from scratch. And I didn't really know what to do, so I ended up building like a JavaScript miner that would run in the browser, which I later found out they people don't like them. So I thought I thought it was gonna be a good idea. I thought it was like, well, why like an alternative to an ad blocker? So why would I have to see ads? Like I wanted to give the user the option of either you see ads or you let me mine in the background with your CPU. So that was the idea. Um, and so I built that as my final year project, but I didn't have any plans to keep working like in the Bitcoin world. So it was just, yeah, I have this idea, I'm gonna build it, that's it. But then kind of randomly through a common friend, I got introduced to Giacomo. So I think I showed him what I had built, and we also kind of clicked. I don't know, in a few ways, I think we're similar. We're also very different in other ways. But yeah, we both, I think, enjoyed talking to each other, and so he ended up offering me a job, and I accepted it. So it was not really planned. It was not like I want to work in the Bitcoin world. It kind of happened in a way. And since the beginning, basically, I've been doing open source stuff. So even with Giacomo, we were doing open source stuff. Then I was at Blockstream, which was maybe a little bit more commercial, but still I was working on Green, so Green and Jade, so still everything open source. And while I was at Blockstream, I had the idea for BDK, so I built BDK. And now, yeah, finally building my own company at last.
Wow. So did you just naturally pick all this stuff up, Alekos, or did you have to go to like a school for it, or how did you, or were you just naturally just gifted like that from the early? Yeah.
I think so. Usually, what I say is that I think I'm obsessed with computers in general. So, and also obsessed with kind of understanding how things work. So, I really like any kind of engineering. I like to dig deep and see how mechanical, I don't know, things work and stuff like that. Not just computers, but computers are generally more accessible. So that's what makes them quite attractive. You don't need like a fancy machine shop with CNC or anything. You can just get a cheap computer and start coding. So maybe that's why I was specifically kind of attracted towards computers. And I started playing and later kind of programming just for fun, I think when I was 12. So for me, it's always been like that, just kind of curiosity that leads me to dig deeper. And then I learn things, and I like to learn by myself. So I know this doesn't really work for everybody. So different people have different approaches on this. I don't like to sit down at a lecture. I get distracted. I cannot really follow. So I prefer to learn on my own in this kind of very practical way. So try to do things, try to break things, and learn from that. So yeah, it was the same initially for, let's say, computers and programming in general. And then for Bitcoin, again, it was mostly just self-taught, just playing with stuff. And yeah, I think I usually say I'm just obsessed. So that's all you need. So you need to keep
Yeah.
working at it, keep bashing your head against the problem until it works. And unless you have a deep passion for what you do, it's very hard. If you're forcing yourself to do it, you're gonna go crazy. So you need to have this obsession, like you cannot stop, and that's what helps yeah, going deep and eventually learning all of this stuff.
So let me ask you this then. It like pull like let's go down this thread then. So where do you get these ideas from? Do you just come up with them, or do you or the more obsessed you get going down these rabbit holes, do these ideas just come to you, or is it like when you're walking around, or is it when you're browsing the internet, or like yeah, where do these ideas come from then?
Um, I don't know. So I don't think there's like a systematic way for me. Um, I think maybe again I'm a bit naturally like creative in a way, creative person. So maybe I just like to, or maybe it's just asking questions. So maybe it's a bit of everything. So asking questions means why is this built this way? So I think most people they just don't ask this question. They just kind of assume this is the right way. But many times there's no right way, or maybe there is a better way than what others have done. So, for example, BDK, the idea for BDK came from working on Green and asking why is it so complicated? Because Green is quite an old, I mean, now it's called the Blockstream app, I think, but the Green wallet, uh, it's a pretty old project. It was called Green Address before, and then it was kind of rebranded over the years. But being so old means it was developed when many kind of new technologies didn't exist. So descriptors didn't exist back then. I think even BIP39, the mnemonics, didn't exist when Green was made. So, and to maintain kind of retrocompatibility, Green is quite complicated. You have to handle all of these cases, like wallets created 15 years ago or stuff like that. Maybe not 15, 10 years ago. But yeah, so the idea for BDK came from looking at this and thinking, oh, maybe there's a better way. So I think for me, yeah, it's just kind of asking this question, which is connected to being curious, connected to digging deep. Sometimes you dig deep and you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. Maybe there's a better way. Uh, and so yeah, from them you can. So the idea, the thing I was describing before, the browser mining thing came from I don't like ads, but also I want to support websites. Maybe there's a better way. I at the time I had kind of learned something about Bitcoin and I made the connection that, oh, maybe I can mine in the browser so the user doesn't have to see ads. So yeah, I think it's just asking questions, being curious, that helps a lot.
Interesting. That's very interesting. When did you decide to say, okay, I think I know enough on the open source side to go out and do my own, like, start up my own company? Um, was there any kind of questions around that? Yeah, like, how did you come up with that idea, that you felt comfortable enough to go start your own company?
Um, I think maybe there's multiple answers to this. So
Yeah.
one is that I think I've always admired entrepreneurs. I've always admired people that kind of created stuff out of nowhere. So I think I've always been attracted to being an entrepreneur and creating something. And in a way, working on open source was already, so creating BDK was already creating something, but I think one side was missing. So the profit part was missing. So BDK is open source, so you can still kind of sell it. You can try to get adoption, but you don't have a financial return, which doesn't mean I don't think I'm interested. I don't think I'm motivated by money, but I like to have that as a metric for how successful the thing I'm building is. So I think in a way it was just for me. Um, just I admire people who create, and you can measure how successful something is because you see the company blow up and grow in value. And I also wanted to create something big. So maybe it's a bit of ego as well. I admit that. So I think it was a bit of wanting to create something, wanting to create something tangible that people use that helps people in their lives and that can grow big. Um, so I think that's what led me to create my own company after BDK.
Interesting. Interesting. And so why did you start with a hardware device? Was it because you worked on Jade before, so you saw a lot of the pain points and stuff like that, or like what was it? What was it about the hardware device that interested you?
So I think in that case, um, so I'm trying to remember. I think in the case, the reason why I started thinking about hardware was um, in order to find a reasonable business model on Bitcoin. Because I mean, the biggest issue Bitcoin startups have is making revenue because everything is open source, everything is free, everything is so it's always tough to monetize products. And usually you either become like an exchange and you can charge a fee for matching orders, or you mine, or you become an hardware company. So this is kind of how I saw it. So maybe there's a fourth one, which is infrastructure. So if you're like a Lightning node provider, but you need a lot of liquidity, you need. So I think the reason why I was attracted to hardware was because I thought if I can kind of crack the code, if I can build something that works, then I have a profitable business model. This was before I realized that making hardware is not so easy, or at least there's, yeah, you have a business model, but there's also logistics, there's many issues involved, which make it much harder to scale compared to a purely software startup. So there are some drawbacks, quite a few drawbacks actually, But I think this is what initially pulled me to look into hardware stuff. And then again, just kind of asking the question. So I was playing with NFC. I don't remember why I was playing with NFC for something. I asked the question, can I build an hardware wallet entirely based on NFC? And so then I started working on it and I tried building it.
Was there anything attractive about NFC that you saw as a kind of because a lot of hardware wallets use the QR code thing, or they use USB or all these other kind of
Yeah.
connectivity things. What was it about NFC that attracted you to it?
I think it came um, mostly from playing or looking at the Bolt cards. So you know those kind of
Yeah.
NFC Lightning credit card size kind of thing. And I think so. Originally, the idea for maybe even before it was another wallet, I was playing with NFC, um, kind of experimenting with that. So it was more on the Lightning side, the original idea or prototype, because again, it was not like a well-defined idea. I was just playing with stuff. So I was playing with NFC and I was playing with Lightning and I was trying to make. Um, I think the idea was maybe more of a better Bolt card. So I wanted to integrate the display. So I was kind of playing with all that. And only later the idea for the hardware wallet came. So I think it was when more of the hardware was running, was implemented, that I kind of realized, oh, I could use this for an hardware wallet. Um, so yeah, I think it's a bit blurry because again, it's not like I sat down and I thought about what do I want to build. It was very, in a way, organic, just kind of playing with stuff and trying things out and saying, okay, this kind of hardware works. What can I do with it? Does it make more sense to build a Lightning thing or an on-chain thing? Or so I think it kind of happened over time. It was not a well-defined moment where I had the idea. It was a progression.
Okay, so it sounds like you didn't start from like a so, I because when you look at the device, it's a very I remember when I told you when I saw it, it looks like a wand, almost like a wizard
Yeah,
wand. It's
yeah,
really cool. It's really cool because it fits right behind the phone and stuff. So yeah, so describe that. Like, did you think of the look of it first, or did you think of the software side of it first? You said it was an organic kind of
yeah,
creation of it, but yeah, can you talk about like how all those components and the substance of
yeah.
it all came together?
So I think the look definitely came later because I remember I was playing and trying different shapes. So I think what came initially was kind of the user experience. So what I wanted to create. So I wanted to create this thing that you hold against your phone and you can sign a transaction with. So obviously this you immediately have to discard like the credit card format because it's basically it's too small. So when you tap it against your phone, that it completely disappears. So you cannot see the display anymore. So I think the shape, or at least the concept for I need an antenna and I need the display sticking out, that came later as an evolution. As okay, if I want to build this thing, I want the user to be able to see the display while they are holding it against their phone. Then I need this kind of detached or two separate parts. There's an antenna part and a display part, and then specifically having the round antenna rather than a square or whatever. I think this was almost last. It was like one of the last um, decisions I made, which was more not really a technical decision, was more of a design decision. Again, I'm not a designer, so I thought that looked cool, at least to me, and so I was like, okay, let's go with it.
Interesting. I'm curious to find out around the kind of the chip and the secure element portion of it, and how all that works with the phone, and 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 obviously like the NFC part of it. Because if I understand it correctly, one of our guys has the portal here, and he's been testing it, and it works with like Bitcoin Keeper and a couple of these other apps, and a lot of it. And I think you just won the hackathon for the Vegas stuff. Can you talk a little bit about all that, and how that works in conjunction with the new app that you created and stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, like a little spoiler. Yeah, we won the hackathon, but at the hackathon we submitted only the app. So it's actually right now it's um, like a completely separate project from the hardware, but they're obviously gonna merge together later on. But yeah, so the way the hardware works is you have this NFC powered device, which is basically that is a battery, so it's wirelessly powered by the phone, and it's quite simple architecture. It's just a microcontroller, a display, a capacitive button that you can use to authorize payments, for example. So the user has to look at the display, see the address, see the amount, and when the user wants to confirm, they press this button to kind of accept it. Um, and so we started with an hardware wallet. Obviously, this is what we've been selling until now. But I think at some point we realized that an hardware wallet is very niche. It's a product for a very niche market, very small market. There's also lots of competition, but I don't think that was the main factor that we kind of considered, because yeah, there's competition, but if we're better, we can beat the competition. So we're not worried about the competition. We were worried about the fact that very few people, unfortunately, self-custody their Bitcoin. And even if they self-custody Bitcoin, there's an extra layer. So first you need to convince people to hold their own keys, and then you need to convince them to buy a hardware device for that, and not just doing it on paper or something like that. So at some point we came with this conclusion that we came to the conclusion that even if Bitcoin goes mainstream, which I think it's already kind of happening, it's the president talked about it, and so we are getting closer to a more mainstream adoption. There's still gonna be very few people, very few users for hardware wallets, and by very few it could be tens, hundreds of millions, but it's still not going to be a product like the smartphone that really goes in everybody's hands. It's still going to be like a niche product for very technical people. Also, you could think about people are going to be priced out of on-chain. So even if Bitcoin ends up being used by everybody, very few people are going to be able to transact on-chain. So very few people are going to need an on-chain hardware wallet for that. So at some point we came to this conclusion that we need to do more than just another wallet, than just signing Bitcoin transactions. And obviously we don't want to get into shitcoins, because it's the same argument, or maybe it's even more niche, because it's kind of gambling, and we're not interested in that. And so the idea for the app that we've built now came from trying to think about other use cases for self-hosted keys that people may have. So we built a product that holds a key securely. What can you do with it on top of signing Bitcoin transactions? Which we plan to keep supporting. So we're not completely pivoting away. We want to add functionalities to the device, not really replace. And so the idea for the app is we came to the conclusion that we want to use those keys for to create kind of a self-hosted digital identity, which basically means you have your own public key, and you can use this to identify yourself either online or even in person. So you want to log into a website, you do that through your public key. You want to open your apartment building, you can do that with your public key. Your public key is authorized to open the door, and when you tap your phone, the door opens. So we came to this concept of you have your own key, you are the master of yourself, of your identity, and you can use it everywhere. You can use it online, you can use it in person, and we see this as a much more interesting product, even for non-Bitcoiners, even for regular people. So in order to buy another wallet, you need to be a Bitcoiner, you need to understand Bitcoin, you need to understand self-custody, and only then you buy another wallet. Here we are basically, in a way, we're doing a bunch of things, but we're trying to replace passwords, for example. So don't use email and password, it's insecure. Use your public key, your identity. We're trying to replace badges and stuff like that for in-person kind of authentication. And all of this, we're building it on an open standard, so we're not locking people into our own app. So yeah, our app is going to be the first client for this protocol, but it's an open source protocol, so anybody else can build client. It's like we are inventing the internet and building the first browser. But then other companies can come and build other browser or build other components that are compatible with browsers, and it's all an open ecosystem. So yeah, we went to Vegas with this app, which right now doesn't do much. It's not even released yet. Um, but right now, what it does is you can log in into websites with your key, and you can approve payments. So we do this, I think, quite cool thing, which is once you log in, you kind of establish this handshake, so both parties know each other's public keys. So the website that I'm logging into knows my public key, and I know their public key, and so then they can just kind of ping me, send me a payment request, and I can approve it straight away. I don't need to scan a QR code. I don't need to copy paste the invoice. So the idea is we're building this very user-friendly UX around. You just receive requests in the app, and you only have to approve them. So you have to say, yes, okay, I'm good with this payment, or I'm good with this subscription. So you can also kind of pre-authorize future payments as well. So yeah, this is what we're building, and it connects to the hardware wallet because the idea is we're going to release a software update for the hardware wallet that's going to enable this new functionality. So the key you have in the hardware wallet, you're going to be able to use it for your identity as well, in connection with the app that we're developing.
Yeah, so let's dive into this. I have 1,000 questions now. First off, good on you for recognizing all the pain points there. So good on you as a founder to say, hey, there's a million things that we can't control and we need to make some changes. I've gone through similar situation here, just running Plub where we've had to do that. And that come to Jesus moment when you have to make those changes. It's just, it is what it is, right?
Yep. Yeah.
We finally got a sponsor. Can you believe it? Vintech. They're a legal firm out of Dallas, Texas, who Plub uses. We actually use Jim, who is this amazing gentleman, Central Texas lawyer, straight shooter, and he does legal expertise, and he has this amazing thing called Vintech. It's a place where you can get access to legal forms. You don't have to use ChatGPT to spin up some kind of gibberish. You can actually get these legal forms that are there already pre-built. You get access to his consulting 2 times a month. There's 25% off all his legal work that he applies to the network of attorneys that he knows. There's no long-term commitment. It's all for $199 a month. He also has this other thing called Vintech Plus, which is 3 hours of additional services per month, which is contract review, drafting, LLC, corporate formation, all that kind of stuff. That's for $999 a month. And it's affordable business legal stuff for startups, founders like yourself. Use the code PLEBLAB at myvintech.com and get 10% off your subscription. And a big thanks to Jim and the Vintech team for backing the builder community and helping us push things forward. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so the way we're thinking about it is as kind of an upgrade, not a complete replacement, let's say, of features. So we're still going to support
that's great.
the hardware wallet side. And it's also quite easy, honestly, to support that because on-chain transactions don't really change much. So it's not like every month you need to tweak and change stuff. So there's definitely improvements that need to be made on that side as well. But once those are going to come, then they're kind of set in stone. So then there's not much to evolve around that side. So yeah, the plan is to support both, and then the user can choose. You can use it just as an hardware signer, so you can only use it as an hardware wallet, or you can use it only for kind of as a backup device for your identity key, or you can use it for both. Yeah.
So potentially this could replace my YubiKey then at some point.
Yeah, the idea is it's effectively like a passkey thing. More secure, I would say, because we support things like key revocation, for example, which you cannot really do with the YubiKey. You cannot do key expiration either. So in a way, we're taking lots of inspiration from protocols like PGP, for example. So the idea is you're going to have one main key, which is in your hardware device, or you can also have it in the smartphone if you want. So just like a wallet, you can also have an hot wallet if you want, although it's less secure. And then there's going to be like secondary keys that have a fixed kind of lifespan. So maybe once a year you need to refresh your secondary key. So once a year you need to take your device and get a new secondary key. So this, for example, allows you to revoke keys. If your phone is stolen, you can take the device, which you keep secure at home, and revoke the old key and get a new one. And you don't lose your main identity. So your main identity is still the main public key. But this specific kind of secondary key, you can revoke it and get a new one. You cannot really do that with YubiKeys. So yeah,
Right.
it's conceptually it's the same, but it's a bit more complete, more secure. You can have multiple devices, so you can have, if you have two smartphones or you have one smartphone and one laptop, you can have different keys on those two devices, but they're both linked to the same main identity. So if whether you log in from a smartphone or you log in from a desktop, you're still logging into the same kind of account. But yeah, in a way, we're trying to replace passwords, replace YubiKeys potentially as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I mean, I still have my YubiKey that I use. It's on my it's on my keys. Like
yeah,
I carry it everywhere with me. I've had it for years. It's tied to me. It's literally tied to me.
yeah,
It's the one thing I don't lose. I keep with me all the time. Um, and yeah, it's my thing that I take with me everywhere. And like you said, it's like so important. What I guess my question is then, if yeah, so let's say hypothetically we have a portal device that is similar to that, and it is something that is tied to our phone that we do use for Bitcoin payments, and whether it doesn't matter what we use for the wallet that we're sending payments to. That would be much easier than pulling out our you know cold card, or some of these other hardware wallets that are a little bit more. I'm not going to say, I mean, we love them, but they're a little bit more friction. Maybe we don't want it. Maybe we don't always need a pull from cold storage, but we need a pull from like a from a wallet that's doesn't not holding Bitcoin,
yeah,
Bitcoin, full Bitcoin, but maybe that's holding like 5,000, 3,000, something like that. Um, so
yeah. So
that's where I'm thinking like maybe this fits somewhere in that kind of range where it's a wallet that's holding in the thousands, not in the hundreds of thousands or something.
yeah, so the way we envision it is actually a bit different from I think what you're describing. So the way we see it now is you have the portal device, which is your kind of highest security, and it's not
Hmm.
really tied to your phone. So the idea is this:
Okay.
you keep it home, you keep it safe. It's basically the way we see it is almost as a digital version of your seal. So it's not something you pull in and out of. Like you keep it in a safe and it's sitting there most of the
Okay.
time. The reason for this is because, first of all, on-chain transactions are becoming and are going to become even more rare. So I guess you're going to make an on-chain transaction when you need to move lot of funds. So you're not going to
Okay.
make an on-chain transaction for like dinner at a restaurant. So all of this is going to move to Lightning, and you use on-chain only for the kind of highest security transactions. So you
Okay.
don't necessarily need it with you. You just leave it home and it's fine. And also for the kind of authentication identity side, um, on the device there's your main key, but then you export a secondary key, and this is the secondary private key is in your phone. So then you can authorize everything from your phone from the app. But this secondary key is like a lower security level. So for example, it can be revoked, it can be lost, stolen, you can revoke it. While with the main key, if the main key is lost, you cannot do anything about it. So the way we see it now is the other device sits at home and you use it very rarely. So you use it maybe once a year to refresh your identity keys, maybe three times per year to make an on-chain transaction. Obviously, we're not there yet. So maybe nowadays people, they still pay dinner with on-chain transactions. But um, looking a few years kind of forward, that's what we expect. So we expect uh, on-chain transactions are going to be very very sparse, just every once in a while. And then you use your phone, so you have kind of hotkeys for everyday use on your phone. So for example, you have a Lightning wallet on your phone with hotkeys, and you have this kind of identity key hot on your phone. Uh, Obviously, in terms of funds, you don't keep the majority of funds in Lightning. For identity, you can always revoke access from the main key.
Okay, we're gonna have to go over that again because you lost me.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Okay.
Lakos. I'm really slow. And I don't mind saying this on air because people know I'm slow. So, all right. So, give me the situation. Okay, let's say I keep like $1,000 in Lightning,
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically. This is all
Yep.
hypothetical for the people that want to attack me. Hypothetically, $1,000 on Lightning.
Yep.
How would I use Portal in this situation? And I have, let's say I have Lightning on my phone, right? And then I have cold storage, in let's say Mexico City or something.
Yeah.
How would we do this? Like, how would I use Portal in this situation for
Yeah.
both for both wallets? Yeah.
Yeah. So the way we imagine it is, Portal would be your cold storage. So you have most of your funds uh, on keys that are in the device, that are only in the device. Maybe multi-sig as well, obviously, if you want to have more security. Um, so Portal is the cold storage, and then you have hotkeys in your phone for Lightning. And I
Okay.
honestly think the security of a modern smartphone is more than enough for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Smartphones are quite secure. So for me,
Okay.
it's fine to have hotkeys for that. I don't think you need an hardware wallet for the
For $1,000
for
or something.
$1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're
Uh,
saying Portal would be great for cold storage still as a signer, and for some of these other options that you're going to be upgrading, your identity, your
yeah.
public keys, stuff
Yeah.
like that, that you then store somewhere safely and securely.
Yeah. So Portal would be a device that you use very rarely. That's the way we see it. So
Okay.
it's mostly sitting somewhere safe. You don't carry with you. You don't. You just every
Okay,
once in
I
a
get it
while
now.
you sign an on-chain transaction. Every once in a while you refresh your keys, but this happens uh, rarely. And most of the actions are done with hotkeys on your smartphone.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so but it's a lot less. It's a lot frictionless than some of
Yeah,
these other devices. Okay, now you got me.
yeah.
Okay,
The,
now
the
I
device
understand.
itself is easier than another hardware wallet. So we're in a way trying to improve the user experience for hardware wallets, but then also on top, um, maybe we are changing paradigm a little bit. So we say this is a device that you don't carry with you. This is, I think it's confusing for some people because they think uh, it's a mobile first device. So it's an hardware wallet, but it's built for smartphones. So then it means I have to carry it with me. And we say no. This is it's two separate things.
Well, yeah, you know what it is too, though. So it's that. This is where I
Yeah,
stumbled. So it's that, and it's the way it looks, because it looks like
yeah,
the way you hold it. So you think two things, or at least me, I'm dumb. So the way you hold it, and then the way it looks. Um, so that's why I thought that. But now that you explain it that way, it actually makes more sense because yeah, I would still use it the way you're explaining it. The only difference is it would just sit somewhere safely and securely, and it would be frictionless and a joy to use it, obviously.
yeah,
And then secondly, I would say is it does all these extra features and all these things that I would have tied to it as well too. So let's talk.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So, how are you thinking through that? When you say these public identities, do you mean like PubKey, Blue Sky, even?
So what we have in mind now is we're building on Nostr. So when I say your public key, I basically mean your Nostr public key. Um, we are actually leaving the social media side uh, on the side a little bit. So what we're trying to do is we're using Nostr public keys as your kind of identity, and we're building a protocol around that. So then we're building all the software, the tools you need. so that you can, for example, if you're a platform website, you can let your users log in with their Nostr key. So we're building a protocol all around Nostr key specifically. So when I say your public key, I basically mean your Nostr public key, which your identity to log into stuff.
Okay. And what other options would you have available besides, obviously the pub key stuff, but you said passwords and some of these other things. And are you thinking like Proton or like 1Password, some of these other ones, or any like Bitwarden, any of these other ones?
So what we're thinking is, um, with this protocol, you can replace passwords. So the idea is if you're a website, instead of asking your users to type in a password, you can let them log in, like log in with Nostr, log in with your public key. So the end goal, which is obviously super ambitious and it's going to take time to get there, but the end goal is to push people towards these kind of authentication systems that, in my opinion, are more secure than passwords because they get leaked. People reuse them. People use insecure passwords. So it's more secure to have a private key somewhere and then you just kind of sign a challenge. So uh, when I say we're trying to replace passwords, it means the ultimate goal is to try to get adoption for this protocol we're building so that people can log in with their public key, with their NOS public key, instead of typing a password somewhere. So that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Can we talk about that? I want to know about that. What's going on?
Um,
What is this protocol? What is like how are you seeing you don't have to go into like the technical details of it all because I won't understand it, but what is the overarching idea around this and like how do you how do you yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's nothing new, I would say. So it's things that already exist, kind of packaged together. So there's already a way to log in with Nostr. There's already a way to send Lightning payments. We are trying to kind of bring everything together in a unified standard so that if you speak this standard, you can authenticate people, you can get paid, you can do recurring payments as well. So it's all like nicely connected together. But in terms of tech, it's not not new tech. So we're not inventing logging in with Nostr. Conceptually, it's very simple. So it's similar to Nostr Wallet Connect. So there's two entities exchanging messages via Nostr. In this case, it would be your app and the entity you're interacting with. So, for example, if I'm logging in somewhere, there's the service that I'm logging into is connected to Nostr and is sending and receiving messages there, exchanging messages with my app. So, for example, the service is going to send me an authentication request. I can approve the request, so then I'm basically signing a challenge, sending it back, saying, okay, yeah, you're authorized. I'm logging in. The service can send me a payment request. I can see I get a notification in my app that says, do you want to approve, I don't know, $5 to this service? Yes or no? Very, very, very simple. So yeah, I would say it's something new. So login with Nostr exists, Lightning payments exist already. We're like bringing everything together in a unified protocol so that we can give the best user experience possible. Because from a user perspective, it's all seamless. It's like you just authorize yes or no. You don't have to type passwords or remember passwords or scan QR codes or type in a credit card number. So everything is all. I think the only thing that uh, resembles it would be, for example, on an iPhone when you say log in with Apple and then you pay with Apple Pay. So it's a similar kind of user experience. So you don't have passwords, you don't have any of that. But obviously that's all centralized in Apple's hands, and we are building a decentralized protocol. So but conceptually that's where we're going. So we're going towards you just press yes or no. Do you want to authenticate? Yes. Do you want to pay? Yes. Um, which is, I think, the best user experience, which is what Apple is doing with Apple Pay and iCloud authentication, keychain kind of things.
And then, so where would these identities sit? Would they sit on, I guess, the secure element on the device that each of us hold, or yeah, like how would that work?
Yeah, you would have a secondary key on your device, but then the main key is only in the hardware, in Portal, in the hardware signer. So um, from the hardware signer, you can add a secondary key, and then you store this key locally on your phone because you need to be able to sign. It's unrealistic to use an hardware device for every login, for every payment, for every kind of everyday interaction. So you have a private key in your smartphone, but since it's this kind of secondary key, for example, it only has a short validity, so it expires after a while, or it can be revoked. So if your smartphone is stolen, you can go and revoke the key. So you do have some safety measures, let's say, around it. But yes, you have your private key, not the main, but some private key would be sitting in your smartphone. And again, going back to my claim before, I think it's perfectly fine for up to tens of thousands of dollars worth of sensitivity, let's say.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like in this world, in this future world that um that you're helping to create, that we would have a portal device. It would sit somewhere safely, securely. I would go to my new Mac that I just purchased, and I would use this new decentralized DID that's being created or that's created already. I would log in to car, whatever, to this new Mac. That there I would have all my apps that I would be signed in. I would tap my portal. It would be that new Mac would be one of my new car Macs of my phone of these other ones. Then I would put my portal back in my safe, secure place wherever that's at. Then I would start using the Mac, and then I would never have to log in, because anytime I would log in, it would be safe and secure, right? Is that kind of
Yeah, so the user experience would be when you buy a new phone, for example, you go take your hardware signer, you kind of export a new, obviously from a user perspective, we don't call it exporting, we're calling it like enroll a new device or something like that. So you bought a new smartphone, okay, let's enroll it to your portal. Um, but what's happening under the hood is we're just kind of exporting a secondary key, which is again maybe valid for a year. So after a year, you have to refresh your key for safety, or you can extend it if you want, but then it's not as secure. And then yeah, once you have this, once your device is kind of enrolled, tied to your main key, then you can just use it to log in everywhere, and it's uh, like same accounts that you had on the previous smartphone because they're both tied to your main key, which is sitting on the other device. So as long as you tie new smartphones, new laptops to the same device, they're all connected to the same, they're all effectively the same account. So when you go on, uh, like assuming at some point, I don't know, Google, Facebook starts using it, when you go to facebook.com from your new phone, it just kind of uh, connects straight away to the same account that you had before because they're all tied to the same public key. And the same, you can use it to open the door to your building because uh, your public key is registered in there, right? So you go back home, just tap your phone, and it's same as the old phone. You don't have to transfer keys. You don't have to. So this is, for example, where YubiKeys are not so great because if you buy a new YubiKey, then you have to kind of transfer. You cannot clone a YubiKey. You have to transfer over and all that. So instead, with our, I would say like multi-tier approach. So we have a main key and we have a secondary key. Then we can do this because the main key is just kind of delegating a secondary key, but you can always revoke the delegation. So you can always, if the device is stolen or whatever, you can go back and revoke it.
so? You know what this reminds me of? Because I used to be in IT. It reminds me of there used to be these different types of software that we would enroll different types of Macs and different types of security devices whenever we would bring on a new client into kind of our MSP. And so whenever a new person would get hired or whatever, we would enroll them into our thing, and then we would be able to monitor all their devices and kind of stuff like that. That's what it reminds me of. So my next question is, would there what's the security and privacy look like on the portal side? Do you guys have any access to that and being able to see what the plebs are running and what their identities are tied to and their devices, or is that obfuscated from y'all?
No, we don't have any kind of control on that because you hold your own keys. So it's like a wallet. If you create your own, if you download the wallet, you create a mnemonic in the wallet. The wallet developer doesn't know or shouldn't doesn't need to know, let's say, about that. So the only way when we get involved is, for example, an IP05. So you can associate like a human readable name to a Nostr public key. We offer that. So we say, do you want to get a username under um our domain? Then we need to know your public key because we need to register it. So that's one example where, but the user can choose. So the user can say, no, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to register it myself, whatever. So then in that case, the app is just a client for this protocol. Uh, we don't have access to the keys. Obviously, we don't have access. We don't know which public keys are running. So we only see that if you somehow use our services, which could be, for example, you want to get a human readable name under our organization. We are also planning to have like premium features in the app. I think there's a way, we're still kind of coming up with it. I think there's a way to let you buy the premium feature without showing your main key. So you can show, and this is actually true for any service. So one thing you can do is you can also generate kind of throwaway identities. So let's say usually I want to log in with my main identity because I don't know, my Facebook account is my account. I want to log into that. But let's say I'm logging in temporarily to something. I can also generate like a random key temporarily, log in with that, and then I throw it away. So you can also do this kind of thing, and this is going to be supported in the app as well. So the user basically has a choice of, do you want to log in with your main identity? Do you want to log in with a temporary identity? Um, and in general, I mean, unless the user decides to use some of our services, we don't see anything about that.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern would be if the device is phoning home about all the different device identities that it's holding the keys to. Kind of similar to what I was telling you when I used to work for MSP. That was fine because the client was paying.
Yeah, it's decentralized.
Yeah, their client was paying us and they trusted us, and so that would be the only thing that I would be concerned about, and I think most people would be concerned about. So that's maybe something to look into. But other than that, I think even if you did have a device that did that, I think people would actually pay that premium probably. I think that's something that people would pay a premium for, especially if that's something that's an extra level of security of service that you guys offered, surprisingly. And then I think what you could also do is you can also create a kind of like a self-sovereign open source version of that, and then offer that to like Start9 and Umbrel, and then let people run their own like open source version of that as say, hey, we make this, white glove service, and we charge, $500,000 a year to help you monitor your different things, and then we do this kind of open source version for the hardcore Bitcoiners or hardcore privacy people that want to do their own thing. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, that's absolutely the way we are kind of approaching it. So we're building it in a way that even if the company dies, obviously the protocol is still going to work because the protocol is just Nostr messages. So as long as there are Nostr relays, you can do it. And even the app shouldn't die if the company dies. So the app should keep working. It's not going to get updated anymore, but it is going to keep working as a client. And the app is going to be is already open source. So somebody else could fork it and kind of keep the development going. And then I absolutely agree with you. There's so many, I think, potential services and revenue sources that you can build on top, which for the hardcore Bitcoiners would be crazy. So I wouldn't pay to lose my privacy, but some people want that. Some people want the extra safety. Some people want even like the ledger recover kind of thing. So some people want the company to have a copy of your own key, which to me is crazy, but I understand the perspective and understand what some may want. Those are all kind of optional services we can offer. So we say, do you want us to back up your key? Sure, if you pay me, I'll do it. You shouldn't, but if you really want to pay me to do it, I'll do it. So yeah, those are all things that you can build on top. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think that's one of the things that I learned doing IT for over a decade was like you just there's people that will pay for that level of security, and then not only will they pay for it, they'll pay over for it. Um, and
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. So it's outsourcing. Like I don't outsource my security because I know how to do it, but it's completely reasonable that somebody that doesn't know how to do it feels more comfortable outsourcing the security. So that's also why, going back to the initial discussion about hardware wallets, that's why I think it's always going to be a niche market, because even if the whole world understands Bitcoin, I think many people are going to be scared of holding their keys, and they're just going to say, no, I don't want to do it. Either I buy the ETF, I want price exposure, I'm going to buy the ETF, or I'm going to buy a ledger, but then I pay for ledger recover on top. So I think it's always going to be a niche market because very few people have that mindset that they feel comfortable holding keys. And I think it's completely understandable. Uh, I think it's not going to change anything. So yeah, those are all, yeah, kind of.
they're always going to trust a guy like you, Alekos, because you look like you, Alekos. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
I hope they do.
No, I mean,
I mean, I don't want to, ideally, I don't want people to trust me, but I understand that if they're willing to pay me, then
yeah, because they know you're the genius behind all this stuff, so they're going to be like, no, this guy knows it better than most, and so I trust that he knows what he's going to do. He's the smartest guy in the room. He only knows how to fix this stuff. So if he can't figure it out, there's probably no one else that can figure this out. Maybe two other people, three other people in the world, and they're not working on it. So, you know, at least that's what I think.
yeah, no, our philosophy is we let you and we encourage you to do it yourself. So hold your own keys, um, have privacy, use your own self-host, your own relay if you want maximum privacy. So we do encourage that, but I understand that some people will say, no, I prefer you to run the relay. I prefer you to help me with this.
So, yeah, we're coming up at the end of the hour, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But the last thing I wanted to bring up was, um, what what was something that you did with Portal early on that you would have probably taken a different approach to? Like if you had to do it all over again, was there something on the hardware side or the software side, or even what we just talked about? Would you have just taken the totally different approach, or do you think all those were necessary to get where you're at today?
Yeah, I would say they definitely were necessary. So now it's easy to say, oh, we built a product for a very small market, but I think we would have not realized that unless we had built it. So like the way I see it is, I think it's always, and it's not like in the past. It's always a constant kind of learning experience. So uh, now I'm talking about this, and maybe in 6 months there's going to be more changes because in 6 months we will have learned something new. So I would say it was definitely necessary. So building it was necessary to get to the point of realizing, oh, actually we need to change something. And actually, again, we're not really changing, we are adding. So it's not like we are throwing away functionalities, we're adding more functionalities. Um, I don't know, that's a good question. So yeah, there's definitely, things that can be improved in the hardware. I think the hardware could have been designed a little bit better. Um, Obviously we still have time to do it. It's not like it's done forever. We can issue a new release, a new revision of the hardware. I think we can make it a bit less sensitive. So many people complain, and I think they're right, that the device on some smartphones, especially on the iPhones, is very sensitive. If you move it a little bit, it loses connection. I think that can be improved with better hardware. Um, but again, on the other hand, I think if you just keep uh, working and you never release the product, then you just kind of get stuck in your echo chamber of your ideas, but you don't validate them or anything. So I think it's important to release products even if they're not perfect, and then you get feedback and you get users and you improve on that. So I still would say I think it was the right move to release that product. I think it was the right move to build. So we've learned is we can improve the hardware, we can improve the software, we can add more functionality, we can make it more appealing for other kind of user targets. But I think it was necessary to go through it to get to this point. So I'm not, let's say, I don't regret any of the changes, any of the things we made. But yeah, in hindsight, you can say this was stupid, this was wrong, but you would only learn afterward.
What's one advice would you give if there's somebody right now that is also building hardware, maybe not the same thing at all, but is thinking about building hardware because I do feel like right now we're kind of going through this kind of me and Keon talk about it a lot, but I do feel like we're going through this kind of hardware kind of renaissance right now, especially with AI and AR and robotics and just how it makes everything a little bit more seamless. Um, what piece of advice would you give them for a founder or for somebody who's an open source builder that's wanting to get into hardware?
Um, Maybe so if somebody is getting into hardware specifically to build a company, maybe the advice I would give, which was unexpected to me, is that it's very tough to raise investments to build hardware. I kind of understand it, but I also think it's stupid in at the same time. So obviously from a VC perspective, if you're purely building hardware, it's hard to scale up. So um, it's hard for an hardware company to blow up overnight like a software company because you double your users, then you double your production costs, you double everything. Instead of for an app, you just double the downloads on the App Store, right? So that's the part I understand from an investor perspective to say I would rather invest in a mobile app because it can grow much faster and it doesn't grow, the costs don't really grow linearly with it. On the other end, I like the biggest companies in the world are hardware companies, pretty much. So like Apple, Nvidia are all hardware companies. Hardware is great. It's tough to clone. It's tough to. Um, I mean, it's much harder at least than forking a project and changing the icon. Like you need to bootstrap a supply chain. You need to get uh, get it in the stores or ship it, and so once you build kind of a trusted user base, I think it's stronger with hardware. Um, and yeah, it's also, especially in the Bitcoin world, it's a one of the very few business models that work. So like if I was an investor, I would rather invest in an hardware company that makes something reasonable rather than investing in yet another open source wallet that doesn't know how to monetize, doesn't like all the wallets out there, how are they going to make money? And they still raise investments, right? So that's the part that's completely crazy to me that I don't understand and I didn't expect it. So when we started first started speaking with investors, I thought, well, we have a business model, we have like we're going to raise investment easily. If they raise investments, they don't have a business model, they don't know how to monetize, then we are going to raise easily. And it was not the case. So that was probably the most surprising thing to me. Uh,
I do think you're right though. I do think in the Bitcoin space they make way safer bets than they should, because I do think you're right. I think for me, I've always seen like a company that comes into Pleb Lab. I'd rather pick the company that's going for the moon to come into Pleb Lab than a company that's just doing something mediocre. Because I think the company that's going for the moon is a far more um, interesting idea, and because if it hits, then it's a bigger bet, and just in entrepreneurship, why are you going to go for a mediocre bet in entrepreneurship? Wouldn't you go for the highest bet? And if you talk to any entrepreneur that's ever been super successful, you always want to go for you always want to go for the thing that no one's going to chase you on, because that's the one that's usually going to win, is because the people that are the craziest are going to win. And I think even Elon Musk says that, and he's the craziest person that's in the world. So you always want to go for the thing that's the craziest idea, because no one's going to chase you for the craziest idea. And then the people that do, you're like, oh crap, they're chasing me.
Yeah, apparently it's not enough. Apparently it's not enough. Or maybe I'm really bad at selling. Probably that's the truth. So yeah, or at least if they win big. So I think if you're a VC, you should go after crazy, but yeah. And instead, at least in the Bitcoin world, I feel like there's lots of the same things happening over and over again. Maybe they are crazy still, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm a bit salty about that. That's why I'm I'm saying this. I'm salty that it took me so long to raise something. Uh, but yeah, I mean it's not my job to be an investor, so maybe they know something I don't.
Yeah, I have noticed, so in the Bitcoin space, the more you play the safer bets, like you said, those are the ones that they'll invest in. But I tend to find that the ones that end up being successful are the ones that are out there, the super out there ones. And we'll see. Still a long time to play. Alekos, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you. Where can people find you? Where can people check out the app, and any other stuff that's happening later this summer where they can find you and meet you and learn more about you?
Yeah, so actually the app is not released yet. So you can find it on GitHub if you wanna build it yourself. So the company is called Portal Technologies Inc. So yeah, you can find it on GitHub like that. You can find us on Twitter as at Portal on X because Portal was not available, so we registered it that way. So I would say, yeah, just keep an eye on that. It's gonna be a few more months, but during the summer, or at least towards the end of the summer, we expect to release something that's working. And then yeah, we need beta testers, we need people to play with this, to break it, and to so yeah. If you are one of those kind of early adopters, please come to us and help us with this thing.
Yeah, and purchase one. And they're only $100 right now. So
Yeah, the devices are still being sold. Right now, you can still only use it as an hardware signer for Bitcoin transactions. So that's again in a couple months, we hope to release the software update as well. So then we're going to enable the new stuff too. Probably be longer than a couple months.
nice, cool. Thank you.